In my previous life, I was imprisoned for 7 years for raping a female educated youth. On the day I got out, my younger sister had been tortured to death, my mom was gone, and my dad had run away. In the end, I was also kidnapped to northern Myanmar and had my heart and lungs cut out. Heaven took pity on me and let me be reborn. The moment I opened my eyes, it was that female educated youth who had been drugged again. I immediately picked her up and ran toward the clinic. I absolutely could not get caught. When I got home, I threw my abusive father out of the house. In this life, I will make those beasts pay the price and let my mother and younger sister live a good life. I stared at the calendar on the wall, flipping it over and over again, sweat already beading on my forehead. 1985, March 11th. That's right, I was reborn. But before I could be happy, I turned my head and saw the woman lying groggily on the bed, and my heart sank at once. Ning Chen, the prettiest female educated youth in the village, the person who personally sent me to prison in my previous life. Worse still, if I remembered correctly, in less than 10 minutes, my damned cousin Chen Yuan would burst in with the women's director and a large crowd, pin me to the bed, and say that I had raped a female educated youth sent down from the city. That was exactly how I fell in my previous life. Back then, I was stupid and even thought the village beauty I'd been chasing for years had finally been moved by me and had come to me of her own accord, who knew she had been drugged and only then ran onto my bed. At the time, I was thinking with my lust and failed to control myself. As a result, Ning Chen lost her quota to return to the city and hated me to the core, identifying me on the spot at the hearing. I ended up bearing the charge of hooliganism for raping a female educated youth and was sentenced to 7 years. Those 7 years became the death warrant for my whole family. My father, Chen Zhi, was a scumbag notorious throughout the surrounding villages. When I was still at home before, he didn't dare go too far. As soon as I was locked up, the very next year he sold my younger sister to an old pimp in the county town, infuriating my mother to death. By the time I got out of prison, everything was too late. My mom was gone, my dad had run away, and my younger sister had been tortured beyond human semblance. In the end, she also died right in front of me. I fought with all my might to save her, but ended up being kidnapped to northern Myanmar myself, my heart and lungs cut out. The terror of being pinned to an operating table and cut open still clings to me like a nightmare to this day. Thinking of all this, my whole body was shaking. What is a woman compared to life itself? And what is a woman compared to family? In this life, if I can avoid touching this woman, I absolutely will. Even if I see her, I have to keep my distance. Suppressing my emotions, I asked a pointless question. Can you still move? Gritting her teeth, Ning Chen glared at me viciously. You actually drugged me, trying to rape me. Chen Zhi, you shameless bastard. I opened my mouth, wanting to explain, but the drug hit her harder, her eyelids drooped, and she fainted. I wasn't the one who drugged her. It was my cousin who had set his sights on my hunting rifle and wanted to frame me. Someone else was also jealous of her quota to return to the city and wanted to harm her too. So the two sides hit it off immediately. The two of us were just a pair of unlucky victims who had been targeted. But if we were caught in this state right now, even 8 mouths wouldn't be enough to explain it clearly. I glanced at the time. I couldn't delay any longer. I scooped her up and rushed frantically toward the clinic. The night wind slashed across my face like knives. I didn't dare stop. At any moment, Chen Yuan's shout could come from behind me. Her body was burning hot, the effects of the drug mixed with sweat, sticking to my arm. Gritting my teeth, I kept telling myself over and over, Chen Zhi, in this life, you can no longer stumble because of a woman. You absolutely cannot get caught. Whether I can change my fate depends on this one move. Only a few minutes after I left, my cousin Chen Yuan arrived in a huge swarm with Director Wang from the Women's Committee and a large crowd. They climbed over the wall and rushed into the house, only to find nothing. Someone had seen me carrying Ning Chen toward the north end. Chen Ergu is trying to rape Chen. Hurry and get everyone to help look for them. If you don't go now, it'll be too late. Director Wang shouted anxiously. A crowd came charging out, carrying hoes and shovels, seething with anger. Halfway there, a half-grown kid came running over, panting hard, and shouted at the top of his lungs. Andy Wang, Brother Ergu sent me to find you. He said Sister Chen was drugged, and he's taking her to the clinic now. See, I told you Ergu couldn't have done that, right? Stop talking, hurry over there. The crowd then rushed noisily toward the clinic. When they hurriedly shoved open the clinic doors, I was standing right beside the hospital bed. Ning Chen was unconscious. A few hot-tempered people immediately raised their hose and surrounded me. Well, Chen Zhi, You could even do something this beastly. I was startled and was about to explain when the nurse hurriedly stepped in to stop them. What are you doing? What are you all doing? Move aside. This brat preyed on the village's educated young woman. He's worse than pigs and dogs. We're going to beat him to death today? The nurse frowned. What nonsense are you raising? Which one of you saw him harm her? If Chen Zhi hadn't brought her here in time, then something really would have happened. I just examined her. Other than being drugged, the female comrade is perfectly fine. Don't wrong a good person. Only then did the crowd awkwardly lower their tools. Chen Yuan's face darkened, and he kept pressing the attack. Don't think that just because you brought her to the clinic, you're no longer under suspicion. Everyone in the village knows you've been pestering her for years. You had a motive. Who knows whether you drugged her intending to rape her, then changed your mind halfway after hearing something was up? This is attempted rape. He slapped that huge accusation on me without a second thought. I looked at him and sneered. Did you see me drug her? If you didn't drug her, then why did she pass out? She's from the city, delicate. So what if she fell asleep after drinking 2 bowls of yam soup? Bullshit. She obviously drank jimsonweed soup. The moment the words left his mouth, I smiled. How do you know she was poisoned by jimsonweed? The doctor didn't say that just now. Chen Yuan's face flushed red, and he stammered. I guessed. I stared at him and said word by word. Jimsonweed isn't cheap. To get hold of it, you'd need connections. My family is so poor we're practically unable to put food on the table. Where would I get something like that? The people around us all nodded. My family really was poor. Our ancestors scraped by on hunting, but these days game is getting scarcer and scarcer, and we often come back empty-handed. I heard that in another 2 years the state will ban guns and confiscate all hunters' firearms. For hunting families like mine, things are looking pretty precarious. Chen Yuan was left speechless, but still unwilling to give up, wanting to keep smearing me. At that moment, Ning Shuiqin woke up. When she saw so many people, she was startled at first and only slowly calmed down after realizing she was at the clinic. Director Wang sat down beside her and asked, Shuiqin, how are you? Ergu, he didn't do anything to you, did he? Ning Shuiqin glanced at me and shook her head. He didn't do anything to me, and he wasn't the one who drugged me either. Then do you know who it was? No, but it definitely wasn't Chen Zhi. Director Wang had no filter and grinned slyly. Oh? Why are you speaking up for him now? Then again, Ergu's been shamelessly pestering you for 2 or 3 years, so I guess it wasn't all for nothing. Ning Shuiqin frowned. Auntie Wang, don't talk nonsense. I quickly picked up the thread. Exactly. We're completely innocent. Pestering her before was me being muddle-headed. From now on I'll definitely keep my distance and mind appearances. The people around us burst out laughing. You? Give it a rest. In less than 2 days you'll probably be back scratching at her door again. Amid the laughter, Ning Shuiqin didn't laugh. She looked at me, her moist lips pressed tightly together, her expression a little complicated. Ever since she woke up, my eyes hadn't landed on her. Not even once. That had never happened before. In the past, when she was sick and I had no money in my pocket, I would rather kill the little hen at home that laid eggs just to bring her a steaming bowl of chicken soup. Now, I don't even look at her. She probably thinks I've changed, but I don't have time to worry about what she's thinking. In this life, staying alive is more important than anything. I turned to leave, but after stepping out the door I looked back and said to Director Wang, I just remembered, my cousin's distant uncle runs a pharmacy in the city. In the whole village, he's probably the only one with connections to get Angel's trumpet. Chen Yuan immediately panicked. No, what the fuck do you mean? I haven't been in touch with that uncle for years, so it definitely wasn't me. How could I hurt the village's educated young woman? He's just jealous that my family is better off than his, so he's trying to pin this shit on me. I ignored him, flashed an amused smile, and left. I had just reached the front door and hadn't even entered the yard when I heard my mother, Li Xiaoya, wailing. My head buzzed. I rushed in, and the scene before me sent my blood rushing straight to my head. My father, Chen Dehua, was yanking my mother's hair and cursing with a ferocious look on his face. My little sister, Chen Ningning, threw herself forward to stop him, but he knocked her to the ground with a slap. Dad, stop hitting her. Stop. Fuck. I'm disciplining my wife. Since when is it your place to point fingers? Your mother is a bitch, and you're a little bitch too. Might as well beat you both to death. Behind him, my half-brother Chen Ming was grinning with excitement, clapping and cheering. Dad, nice one. Hit harder. This old hag bosses everyone around all day long. Does she really think she's my mom? Serves you right. Beat this filthy bitch to death. You animals. I fuck your mother. I was furious beyond words. I charged forward and sent a flying kick hard into the middle of Chen Dehua's back. That kick carried the ruthless force of the fights for survival I had imprisoned in my previous life. It sent him flying straight out, crashing into the wall, and he couldn't recover for a long while. And I didn't go easy on Chen Ming either. After knocking Chen Dehua down, I grabbed a wooden stool and swung it hard at his head. He hurriedly raised his arms to shield himself, and the stool smashed his arm swollen, leaving him rolling all over the floor in pain. You fucking dare hit me? Chen Dehua stared at me in disbelief and tried to rush over to fight. I held the stool, my eyes like a vengeful ghost come to claim his life. You old bastard. Come on, come over here, so I can beat you to death. Chen Ming clutched his arm and wailed, and Chen Dehua backed off too. He had spent his whole life bullying the weak and fearing the strong. Today, seeing that I was really out for blood, he truly didn't dare move. But just then my mother grabbed hold of me. Xiaozhi, don't get yourself into trouble. Mama's fine, huh? I steadied her and saw that her face was bruised black and blue, blood seeping from the corner of her mouth, her hair in disarray. My little sister, Chen Ningning, was still young, lying on the ground clutching her face, her tears smeared all over it, yet she didn't make a sound. Looking at her, it felt like someone was squeezing my heart. How old is she? Why should she have to suffer this? If I had come back even one moment later, who knows what state those two would have been beaten into today. The more I looked, the harder it was to contain my rage. I grabbed the stool again, wanting to beat those two beasts, old and young, to death. Chen Dehua and his son were so scared they kept backing away. Son, you can't do something foolish. My mother clung to me tightly. My eyes were red as I said, fine, I won't do anything foolish. Then divorce him right now. My mother hesitated. But your sister is still little, she can't be without a father. I laughed in anger. I didn't blame her. I blamed this era for giving her too many reasons to swallow humiliation and keep the peace. My father was scum. He beat his wife and children and never supported the family. When I was around, he still didn't dare go too far. When I wasn't, my mother and sister were his punching bags. I stared at Chen Dehua, then looked back at my mother. Mom, your son is being unfilial today, but I'm forcing you just this once. Either you divorce that bastard, or even if it means getting shot, I'll still beat these two beasts to death. Trading one life for less suffering for you in the future, I come out ahead. Between me and him, you can only choose one. Tell me, who do you want? My mom finally couldn't hold it together anymore and threw herself into my arms, wailing, I'll divorce him, I'll divorce him. Chen Dehua was still sneering from the side. Divorce? Forget your mom. Even your little sister is a useless money-losing girl. Without me supporting you, once the guns are confiscated in a few years, what will the three of you live on? Live on Northwest Wind? I stared at him. And you dare to say you support the family? With those few work points you earn on the job, every last damn one of them ends up being traded for booze. The money in this family was scraped together bite by bite from what my mom saved from her own mouth. Even this house was allocated to my mom by her work unit when she was young. You beat my mom, live in her house, and still think you're the pillar of the family? Are you worthy? A few words from me left his face alternating between green and white. I went into the room, dug out a few empty liquor bottles, and smashed them at their feet with a bang. In this whole house, these bottles are the only things that belong to you. Pick up the glass shards yourself and get the hell out. There's no place for you in this house. Chen Dehua and his son were trembling with rage. In the past, they would have rushed up and started hitting people long ago. But every domestic abuser bullies the weak and fears the strong. I had hit too hard today, so they didn't dare touch me. The father and son could only stand in the yard and curse loudly, drawing the neighbors over. The neighbors all knew what kind of people they were, and not only did no one help, they actually stayed to watch the show. Well, if it isn't mighty Chen, when it comes to beating your wife, you're worth two men, so why can't you handle your second son? It's one thing to act tough at home, but now you can't even act tough at home anymore. What's the use of yelling here? After cursing for quite a while, seeing that no one responded and that they had no right on their side, Chen Dehua and his son could only slink away and go to my cousin's house for shelter. Only then did the neighbors come over to comfort us. Some people pitted my mom and little sister and brought rice, flour, beans, and cooking oil. I thanked them one by one and moved the things into the house with my sister. My sister was very sensible, her eyes red but without crying or making a fuss, and she even helped me support our mom. I squatted in front of my mother, who was wiping away tears, and my heart felt like it was being twisted by a knife. Mom, your son was useless before. All these years, you've been carrying this family all by yourself. From now on, I'll definitely put my mind on proper things and take good care of you and my sister. Tomorrow, I'll go hunting properly, pay back the money in town, and then look for some other way to make a living. Please don't worry yourself sick. Li Xiaoya's lips trembled as she stroked my head. My son has grown up. Mom's not afraid. Mom's not afraid. But in her eyes, it was obvious she still didn't believe it. I knew that my former self had been too much of a bastard. Most of the game I hunted, I took to Ning Shuiqin to curry favor with her, and the money from selling wild goods was also basically spent on buying all sorts of random things to give her, to the point that I didn't even look after my own family. Mother had been utterly heartbroken by me, but it didn't matter. From now on, he would use his actions to prove that he had truly changed and let his mother and sister live good lives. Early the next morning, a thin mist lingered, and the mountains were so quiet that the only sounds were birdsong and the rustling of leaves in the wind. Chen Zhi got up early, washed up briefly, and pulled that hunting rifle out from under the bed. He carefully checked the chamber, loaded the bullets, then took 2 corn buns from the kitchen and tucked them into his pocket. He quietly went out the door and headed up the mountain. The mountain road was not easy to walk. Weeds grew thick, and thorns were everywhere. Chen Zhi carefully pushed aside the branches in front of him, his feet crunching on the fallen leaves with crackling sounds. After walking for a little over an hour, he arrived at a mountain hollow. The terrain here was relatively flat, and the trees were comparatively sparse. Sunlight filtered through the gaps in the leaves, casting mottled patches of light and shadow. Chen Zhi took a deep breath. The mountain air was fresh, carrying the fragrance of earth and vegetation, which refreshed him. He narrowed his eyes and carefully observed the surroundings. Suddenly, he spotted a small patch of messy footprints, as if left by some small animal. Chen Zhi crouched down and brushed aside the fallen leaves covering them with his hand. Revealing clear marks, it was rabbit tracks. Chen Zhi felt a surge of joy. It seemed luck was on his side today. He followed the direction of the tracks, pushing aside the dense bushes, and his view suddenly opened up. It was a small mountain meadow. Sunlight poured down, illuminating the tender green grass. Several gray-brown wild rabbits were leisurely nibbling on the grass, completely unaware of the approaching danger. Chen Zhi counted them roughly. There were about 7 or 8. He held his breath and slowly backed away so as not to startle these timid prey. Back under the cover of the bushes, Chen Zhi pulled out the tools he had prepared in advance from his backpack, several long, thin wires, and some branches. Skillfully, he bent the wire into small, delicate snares, then used the branches to secure them in places where rabbits often appeared. These snares were hidden in the dense grass, making them hard to spot. Once a rabbit accidentally stepped into one, it would be tightly ensnared. Chen Zhi set a total of 5 traps. After setting them, he did not leave immediately, but instead found a large rock with a wide view and sat down, quietly waiting for the prey to take the bait. He lit a cigarette, took a deep drag, slowly exhaled a ring of smoke, and fixed his gaze on the distance. The mountain breeze brushed gently past, bringing waves of rustling pines mixed with birdsong, like a melodious pastoral symphony. Chen Zhi thought that perhaps there might be other gains deeper in the mountains, and immediately decided to head farther in. Following the winding mountain path, Chen Zhi climbed upward all the way. The path grew steeper and steeper, and the trees by the roadside became denser and denser, blocking out the sky and sun so that sunlight could hardly penetrate. After walking for about 2 hours, Chen Zhi reached the middle of the mountain when he suddenly heard a burst of barking, coming from far to near and growing clearer and clearer. His heart tightened, and he thought to himself, "This is bad. Could it be wild dogs?" In these deep mountains and forests, wild dogs were not to be trifled with. They usually moved in packs and were exceptionally ferocious. Chen Zhi hurriedly hid behind a huge rock and quietly watched for any movement. He saw 3 powerfully built wild dogs appear on the mountain path. They were filthy all over, their fur matted together, their eyes fierce, and low growls coming from their mouths. They seemed to be searching for something, their noses constantly sniffing the ground. This was trouble. He was not carrying any weapon sufficient to deal with 3 wild dogs. Only the hunting gun he used for hunting, and there were only 2 bullets in it. Unless absolutely necessary, Chen Zhi did not want to use the hunting gun. After all, in these deep mountains, any bit of resources was exceedingly precious. The 3 wild dogs came closer and closer, and Chen Zhi could even smell the fishy stench coming off them. He held his breath and did not dare move at all, afraid of alerting them. Suddenly, one of the wild dogs seemed to have discovered Chen Zhi's whereabouts. It abruptly raised its head and began barking toward the huge rock where Chen Zhi was hiding. The other 2 wild dogs also immediately became alert and closed in toward the boulder. Chen Zhi knew he had been exposed, and he quickly darted out from behind the huge rock. raising the hunting gun in his hands and aiming at the wild dog charging at the front. Bang! A gunshot rang out, and the bullet struck the wild dog's head with precision. The wild dog dropped to the ground at once. It twitched a few times and then went still. The other two wild dogs were startled by the gunshot. They stopped in their tracks, stared at Chen Zhi warily, and let out low growls. They slowly circled around Chen Zhi, looking for a chance to attack. Chen Zhi tightened his grip on the shotgun, his eyes locked on the two wild dogs, not daring to relax for even a moment. As he kept the wild dogs at bay, he also searched for a way to get out. One of the wild dogs suddenly lunged at Chen Zhi. Chen Zhi was ready for it. He dodged to the side, avoiding the wild dog's attack while raising the shotgun and aiming at the other wild dog. Bang! Another gunshot rang out, and the bullet struck the wild dog in the abdomen. The wild dog let out a miserable cry and fell to the ground, rolling around. Seeing this, the remaining wild dog seemed somewhat intimidated. It no longer dared to approach Chen Zhi easily, only pacing in the distance and letting out low growls. He did not dare stay any longer and turned to run. Seeing this, the wild dog immediately gave chase. As Chen Zhi ran, he kept looking back to observe the wild dog's movements. The wild dog was very fast and was about to catch up with Chen Zhi. Just then, Chen Zhi had a sudden idea and pulled out the machete he carried with him. The machete struck the wild dog's head squarely, producing a dull thud. The wild dog let out a miserable cry, fell to the ground, and after struggling a few times, went still. Chen Zhi dragged the wild dog's corpse to the rabbit trap he had set earlier. The trap was built from branches and vines, covered with dry grass and leaves, making it hard to spot. He carefully lifted the trap's cover and looked inside, instantly overjoyed. There were actually 3 plump rabbits in the trap. Huddled together, they trembled all over. Chen Zhi was ecstatic. Today's haul was unexpectedly abundant. With these wild dogs and rabbits, he could feast well and also sell the rabbit skins for some money. He took the rabbits out of the trap and put them into his backpack. After tidying up the trap, Chen Zhi set off on the road home with his heavy backpack on his back. As the sun set in the west, its golden afterglow blanketed the mountains and forest, tinting everything with a warm hue. Chen Zhi walked briskly along the mountain path. When he reached the foot of the mountain, he ran into his father, Chen Dehua. Chen Dehua cast a sidelong glance at the bulging backpack on Chen Zhi's shoulder, then looked at the wild dog's corpse dragging in his hand. Curling his lip, he said in a mocking tone, "Well, if it isn't my filial son, Hunter Chen? Quite a good haul today, huh? Planning to settle down in the mountains." Chen Zhi could not be bothered with his sarcasm and walked straight ahead. But Chen Dehua blocked his way and continued, "What? You don't even greet your own father when you see him." Chen Zhi stopped and looked at Chen Dehua's hateful face, saying coldly, "Move aside." "Oh wow, quite arrogant, aren't you? When my uncle talks to you, you can't hear him?" His cousin Chen Yuan, watching the commotion with relish, chimed in from the side. "Looks like the game in these mountains really can make people bold. But let me remind you, don't be happy too soon. Some people aren't so easy to placate." Chen Zhi understood at once what he meant, and his expression instantly darkened. "What do you mean?" Chen Yuan chuckled and moved closer to Chen Zhi, lowering his voice as he said, "Don't think I don't know what you're up to. Aren't you just trying to curry favor with Ning Shuiqin? You think catching a few wild rabbits can make up for that guilty thing you did before? That girl is sharp. You think a few small favors like this will make her change her mind? Dream on." Chen Zhi suddenly clenched his fists, veins bulging on his forehead. "What I do is none of your damn business. Who the hell do you think you are, lecturing me?" His father, Chen Dehua, let out a sneer and said in a mocking tone, "You brat, are you playing dumb? Everyone knows you've got your eye on educated youth Ning, running to the educated youth point every day. Has she ever even given you a proper look? Getting all this wild game. Aren't you just trying to curry favor with her? Instead of wasting your time on that, you'd better show some filial respect to your father." Chen Zhi suddenly lifted his head, his gaze sharp as a knife, stabbing straight at Chen Dehua as he said word by word, "Show filial respect to you. You deserve that? Who the hell do you think you are?" Chen Dehua was intimidated by Chen Zhi's sudden imposing aura. He hadn't expected the usually meek and submissive Chen Zhi to dare speak to him like this. Out of humiliation and anger, he shouted, "You little bastard, your wings have hardened, have they? How dare you talk to your old man like that?" As he spoke, he raised his hand to hit Chen Zhi. Chen Zhi had been prepared. He turned sideways and dodged Chen Dehua's slap, then grabbed his wrist with a backhand and twisted hard. Chen Dehua immediately howled in pain, his old face flushing bright red. You dare hit me?" Chen Dehua looked at Chen Zhi in disbelief, his eyes full of terror. Chen Zhi let out a cold laugh, increasing the force in his hand a bit more. So what if I hit you? Do you think I'm still the same spineless coward as before, letting you beat and curse me at will? Chen Yuan, who had been enjoying the spectacle at the side, saw Chen Zhi suffer a loss and immediately jumped out to back him up. Chen Zhi, you've really gone too far. You even dare hit your own father. Do you have any respect for the law? Chen Zhi released Chen Zhi's wrist, turned to face Chen Yuan, his eyes icy cold. You want to taste too? Chen Yuan was so frightened by Chen Zhi's look that he took a step back, but he still refused to back down verbally. Why you? Don't try to scare me. I'm telling you, you hit my uncle today, and this isn't over. Chen Zhi curled his lips disdainfully. Suit yourself. I'll go all the way with you. Chen Zhi clutched the wrist Chen Zhi had twisted painfully and pointed at Chen Zhi's nose as he cursed. You unfilial son. Sooner or later you'll get your retribution. You think killing a few wild animals means you've turned your life around? The heavens are watching all those guilty things you've done. Chen Zhi's expression darkened. He knew Chen Zhi was referring to the matter of him drugging Ning Xueqin. Seeing this, Chen Yuan thought he had struck Chen Zhi's sore spot and became even more smug. What? Did I hit the mark? Feeling guilty, Chen Zhi sneered. As for who exactly drugged that educated youth, I think you know better than I do. He couldn't be bothered to keep tangling with Chen Yuan and Chen Zhi, so he picked up the prey and turned to leave. Seeing that Chen Zhi was about to go, Chen Yuan quickly reached out to stop him, shouting, "Don't you go, brat. If this isn't made clear today, nobody's leaving." Chen Zhi stopped, turned back to look at Chen Yuan, his gaze so cold it was like he was looking at a dead man. What? Looking to get beaten up? Chen Yuan jutted out his neck, pretending to be calm. Why? Don't try to scare me. I'm telling you, you hit my uncle today. I won't let you off. Chen Zhi let out a scornful laugh, set the prey on the ground, and rolled his wrist. Won't let me off? I'd like to see exactly how you won't let me off. Seeing Chen Zhi acting so arrogantly, Chen Yuan burned with rage, forgetting the skill Chen Zhi had just shown. He suddenly charged forward and threw a punch. But Chen Zhi had been prepared. He sidestepped and dodged. He easily dodged Chen Yuan's attack. Then, with a sweeping leg, he tripped Chen Yuan to the ground. Ouch! Chen Yuan fell flat on his face, his nose smashing into the ground, and blood immediately began to pour out. Chen Zhi looked down at him from above and said coldly, "With just that little skill, you still dare challenge me?" Covering his nose, Chen Yuan climbed up from the ground and pointed at Chen Zhi as he cursed, You little bastard, you dare hit me. I'll fight you to the death." As he spoke, he charged forward again. The result was predictable. He was easily knocked down by Chen Zhi once more. This time, Chen Zhi did not hold back, delivering a vicious kick straight to Chen Yuan's stomach. Ugh! Chen Zhi felt as if all his internal organs had shifted, and his stomach churned violently, making him unable to stop himself from vomiting. Watching from the side, Chen Zhi was terrified and quickly stepped forward to help Chen Yuan up, pointing at Chen Zhi and cursing, "Chen Zhi, you're simply insane. You even beat your own cousin. Do you have any humanity left?" Chen Zhi let out a cold laugh. He struck first. "I was just acting in self-defense." Chen Zhi trembled with rage. "Self-defense? You hit him so viciously. This is clearly intentional assault." Chen Zhi couldn't be bothered to waste any more words on him. He picked up the game and turned to leave. Today's haul was quite good, enough for him, his sister, and his mother to have several hearty meals of meat. Thinking of the delighted expression his sister would have when she saw the game, the corners of Chen Zhi's mouth unconsciously lifted. He had no idea that, in the dense woods not far behind him, a pair of eyes was fixed intently on his every move. The owner of those eyes was none other than Ning Xueqin. Ning Xueqin had specially dressed up today, changing into her faded floral dress and lingering beneath the big tree at the entrance of the village for quite some time. She had heard from Chen Yuan that Chen Zhi had gone up the mountain to hunt today, and she felt a faint sense of anticipation. Ning Xueqin watched as Chen Zhi got into a conflict with the Chen Yuan brothers, and saw him cleanly and decisively knock both of them to the ground. She felt both nervous and excited. She felt that Chen Zhi was like a wild cheetah, brimming with primal power. She had even already begun fantasizing about how she should respond when Chen Zhi brought the game to her. However, Chen Zhi did not walk in her direction, but instead headed straight toward his own home. Why didn't he come find me? Ning Xueqin murmured to herself, her eyes filled with confusion. Could it be that he didn't feel guilty toward her at all? Returning home, he pushed open the shabby front gate, and the aroma of food mixed with the smell of firewood rushed toward him, causing Chen Zhi's originally taut, nerves to relax slightly. In the courtyard, his mother was bent over, busy at the stove, while wisps of cooking smoke drifted through the air. "Mom, I'm back," Chen Zhi called out, tossing the game onto the ground. Hearing Chen Zhi's voice, his mother quickly straightened up, a smile appearing on her face. "You're back. You had a pretty good haul today." "Not bad," Chen Zhi responded flatly, with a hint of fatigue in his tone. He carried the game into the yard and skillfully skinned and gutted it, his movements neat and efficient. "Ningning, help me add some firewood." As Chen Zhi processed the game, he spoke to his younger sister. A thin figure walked out from the house. It was Chen Zhi's younger sister, Chen Ningning. Holding a few pieces of firewood in her hands, Chen Ningning slowly walked over to the stove, pouting with an unhappy expression on her face. "Brother, you went hunting?" Chen Ningning tossed the firewood into the firebox, her tone carrying a trace of complaint. Chen Zhi answered without even lifting his head. "I got lucky today and caught 3 wild rabbits and a wild dog." "Humph." Chen Ningning let out a cold snort. "I think you went to curry favor with Ning Shuachin, didn't you?" Chen Zhi's hand paused for a moment. Then he continued processing the prey as if nothing had happened. "Don't talk nonsense." Chen Zhi's tone was a little stiff. "Talking nonsense?" Chen Ningning raised her voice. "Last time you caught a pheasant, didn't you eagerly take it to her family too? In the end, they didn't even let you in the door." The more Chen Ningning spoke, the more aggrieved she felt, and tears began to well up in her eyes. "Brother, why are you so nice to her? She doesn't like you at all," Chen Ningning said through sobs. Chen Zhi's hand paused for a moment, and a wave of guilt surged up in his heart again. "Ningning, don't cry." Chen Zhi sighed, walked over to his sister, and gently patted her shoulder. "I know I was wrong. I won't do this again." Chen Ningning sobbed and said intermittently, "Brother, don't be so nice to her. She's not worth it." Chen Zhi sighed again and rubbed his sister's hair. All right, I know. Stop crying, or Mom will start worrying in a bit." Chen Ningning sniffed, wiped away her tears, and finally quieted down. Chen Zhi returned to the stove and continued processing the prey. Skinning, gutting, cutting it up. His skilled movements seemed as if he had done them thousands of times, carrying a kind of mechanical numbness. Dinner was very hearty, and the aroma of rabbit meat filled the entire courtyard. But Chen Zhi had no appetite for the food, his sister's aggrieved crying from earlier constantly surfacing in his mind. Night fell, and a crescent moon hung in the sky, casting a cold, clear glow. Chen Zhi lay in bed, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Suddenly, he heard a faint rustling sound coming from the courtyard. Chen Zhi frowned warily, got up, gently pushed open the window, and looked outside. By the faint moonlight, he saw 3 dark figures sneaking into the courtyard and heading toward where the prey was piled. Chen Zhi's heart sank, and he immediately understood they had come to steal the prey. He quickly got dressed, grabbed a wooden club, and silently slipped out of the room. "Who's there?" Chen Zhi let out an angry shout and charged out. The 3 dark figures were startled and fled in panic in different directions. Chen Zhi gripped the wooden club and swung it viciously at the slowest running figure. "Ow!" With a scream, the dark figure fell to the ground. By the moonlight, Chen Zhi saw the face of the person on the ground. It was actually his own father, Chen Dehua. Chen Zhi froze, and the wooden club in his hand stopped midair as well. "Chen Zhi, it's me. Father Chen clutched the place where he had been hit and groaned in pain. Seeing this, the other 2 dark figures also stopped. One was Chen Zhi's cousin Chen Yuan, and the other was Chen Ming, the son born to his father's ex-wife. We were just..." Father Chen stammered, not knowing how to explain. "Just what? Trying to steal my prey?" Chen Zhi sneered. Seeing this, Chen Chong hurried forward and tried to smooth things over. "Sure, you've misunderstood. We were just borrowing it, and we'll return it to you tomorrow." "Borrowing? You sneaked in here in the middle of the night, skulking around, and you call that borrowing?" Chen Zhi raised the wooden club in his hand again. The wooden club in his hand came down hard on Father Chen with a whistling rush of wind. "Ah!" Father Chen let out a miserable scream and rolled on the ground, clutching the place where he had been hit. You've gone crazy." Chen Yuan shouted in terror and tried to step forward to stop him, but Chen Zhi forced him back with a swing of the club. "Don't come over." Chen Zhi's eyes were wide with fury, like a wounded beast. "You heartless bastards, how dare you steal my things?" The wooden stick came down again and again, mercilessly smashing onto Chen Ming and Father Chen. Chen Dehua was trembling with fear, hiding in the corner and not daring to make a sound. Father Chen and Chen Ming were beaten until they cried for their fathers and mothers, their pleas for mercy nonstop. "Zhi'er, stop hitting us. We were wrong." We won't dare do it again. Please, stop hitting us. We had no choice either. Father Chen's miserable screams pierced the silent night, echoing through the empty courtyard. The anger in Chen Zhi's heart was like a blazing fire, impossible to extinguish. Stop! A sharp cry suddenly rang out. Chen Zhi abruptly stopped what he was doing and looked toward the sound, only to see his mother, Li Xiaoya, standing in the doorway with a coat thrown over her shoulders. Zhi, what are you doing? Li Xiaoya's voice trembled. Chen Zhi froze, and the wooden stick in his hand drooped weakly. He had not expected his mother to appear at this moment. Seeing his mother appear, Father Chen seemed to have grabbed a life-saving straw. Scrambling and crawling, he hid behind Li Xiaoya and cried out, Xiaoya, save me. Zhi has gone mad. Chen Ming also began crying out, Annie, save me. I'm about to be beaten to death. Li Xiaoya looked at Chen Zhi. Zhi, have you gone mad? They are your father and brother. Chen Zhi's chest heaved violently. Gritting his teeth, he said word by word, they stole my things. They're just a few rabbits. Is there really any need to hit so hard? Li Xiaoya's tone softened, carrying a hint of pleading. Zhi, they also had no choice. No choice. Chen Zhi let out a cold laugh. They eat and drink well. While the prey I worked so hard to hunt, they steal whenever they want. And that's what you call having no choice. Li Xiaoya sighed and said, Zhi, you don't know. Your father, he has owed quite a lot in gambling debts lately. Chen Zhi only hated that his mother was kind-hearted and being taken advantage of. Why should I be the one to bear the gambling debts he owes? As he spoke, he looked at Li Xiaoya. Mom, have you forgotten how Chen Dehua used to come home drunk and beat you and Ningning? Zhi, your father really has no other way. Li Xiaoya's voice choked up and tears streamed down her wrinkled cheeks. Zhi, just forgive him this once. Mom is begging you. As Li Xiaoya said this, she actually moved to kneel down. Chen Zhi quickly held his mother up, stopping her from kneeling, and said coldly, Mom, you don't need to beg me. They stole so much of my game. They must compensate me at full price. Otherwise, we'll let the police handle it. Li Xiaoya's face changed, and she pleaded, Zhi, your father really knows he was wrong. So you knows he was wrong. Chen Zhi let out a cold laugh. If he really knew he was wrong, he wouldn't have brought Chen Yuan to steal my game. Father Chen darted out from behind Li Xiaoya and said with a mournful face, Zhi, Dad knows he was wrong. Dad won't ever dare do it again. Just forgive Dad this once. Dad will kneel to you. As he spoke, Father Chen made as if to kneel down. Chen Zhi grabbed Father Chen's arm and shouted sternly, Cut it out. I said, either pay up or we'll call the police. You choose. Hearing this, Li Xiaoya was stunned. She had not expected Chen Zhi to say such a thing. Father Chen and Chen Yuan were also dumbfounded. They had not expected Chen Zhi to be so resolute this time. With a creak, the courtyard gate opened, and several neighbors peeked in and walked inside. What's going on? Old Chen, what happened to you? Wang Dafu, the village's famous know-it-all, was the first to walk in. With Wang Dafu's appearance, more and more people crowded into the courtyard, chattering all at once. Oh my, who beat old Chen up like this? They really hit hard. Exactly, just look at how swollen his face is, like a pig's head. In the crowd, a gray-haired old woman leaned on her cane and shakily walked up to Li Xiaoya. Xiaoya, teach this? What's going on? Li Xiaoya looked embarrassed and stammered, unable to say a word. She knew Chen Zhi was wrong to hit someone, but she also found it hard to talk about Father Chen and Chen Ming stealing the game. Seeing this, Father Chen immediately put on a pitiful look and cried out, Folks, please judge this fairly. My own son beat me into this state over a few rabbits. What sin did I commit to deserve this? Chen Ming also chimed in and fanned the flames. That's right. Auntie, we know we were wrong, and we won't dare do it again, but my brother was way too ruthless. He almost beat us to death. Chen Yuan, meanwhile, held his face and whimpered and groaned as if he were seriously injured. The crowd immediately erupted, all pointing fingers at Chen Zhi. This Chen Zhi is getting more and more outrageous. He even beats his own father. Exactly. I'd heard before that he wasn't filial, and now it seems the rumors really were true. Xiaoya, you need to properly discipline this child. If this goes on, sooner or later he's going to cause a huge disaster. Chen Zhi watched coldly. These people were all fair-weather reeds, bending whichever way the wind blew. They didn't care about the truth at all. They only cared about having something to gossip about after meals. He took a deep breath and said loudly, You only saw me hit them, but you don't know what they did. The crowd fell silent and looked at Chen Zhi curiously, pointing at Chen Yuan and Chen Ming. Chen Zhi said word by word, They stole my game. That game was what I worked so hard to hunt in the mountains. They took it without asking and still acted as if they were in the right. Aren't they just a few rabbits? Is there any need to be so stingy? Wang Dafu curled his lip and said disapprovingly. Chen Zhi let out a cold laugh. Just a few rabbits? That's several days' worth of food for my mother, my sister, and me. To hunt, I go up the mountain before dawn every day. He paused, then continued. My father is hopelessly addicted to gambling and owes a mountain of debt. My brother is an idle loafer who never does a proper job. They squander all the money I've worked so hard to earn. And now they're even stealing my game. Tell me, should I have hit them or not? Chen Zhi's words were like a stone thrown into a still pond, stirring up ripple after ripple. The courtyard instantly fell so silent you could hear a pin drop. That's how it is in the countryside. Whatever smoke rises from whose pot, whatever firewood is burning under the stove, nothing stays hidden from anyone. Everyone knew perfectly well about Chen Dehua's favoritism and Chen Ming's idleness. They just hadn't expected Chen Dehua's favoritism to go this far, for the sake of a worthless son. He had driven the honest and straightforward Chen Zhi to violence. Wang Dafu awkwardly rubbed his hands, cleared his throat, and tried to break the suffocating silence. Zhi, even if they were wrong, you still shouldn't have hit them. You're all one family. Whatever it is, can't you talk it out properly? Chen Zhi sneered, his gaze sweeping over Wang Dafu and the surrounding villagers like a blade. Talk it out properly? How many times have I tried talking? Did they ever listen? They only get worse. They stole the game I worked so hard to hunt, then turned around and blamed me, saying I was stingy. My mother and my sister are still going hungry, while they take my money to gamble and drink. You call that family? Huh. The villagers around them began whispering among themselves. Their eyes were filled with contempt for Chen Dehua's whole family. Seeing that everyone was about to start persuading him again, Chen Zhi waved his hand and said, Enough. I can give them the things. When Chen Dehua and Chen Ming heard this, their eyes instantly lit up, and they secretly felt pleased. This brat really is afraid of losing face after all. We'll deal with him like this from now on. Who would have thought that Chen Zhi's next words would make them feel as if they had fallen into an ice cellar? I can give them the things. Chen Zhi paused, his tone icy, but my mother and sister have no food to eat. So from now on, they'll take turns eating at your homes. Since we're all fellow villagers, you shouldn't be so heartless, right? Chen Zhi's words exploded through the crowd like a bomb. Everyone looked at each other, and no one dared respond. They all understood that Chen Zhi was morally pressuring them. A villager gave an awkward smile and said, Juror, this isn't very appropriate, is it? Another villager echoed. Exactly, our family isn't well off either. Chen Zhi let out a cold snort, his eyes full of mockery. What? Just now, every one of you was righteously lecturing me, and now you're all playing deaf and dumb? If you think I was wrong to hit someone, then call the police and have me arrested. I'll be waiting. Everyone was immediately struck speechless, all waving their hands, their faces burning. The villagers who had just been speaking up for Chen Dehua now also changed their tune and began criticizing Chen Dehua instead. Old Chen, what you did really was wrong. No matter what, Zhi is still your son. How could you? Exactly. Your favoritism is way too obvious. No wonder Zhi resorted to violence. Chen Dehua's face turned livid, and his teeth ground together audibly. He hadn't expected that he would be outmaneuvered by Chen Zhi and end up losing more than he gained. When did this unfilial son get so good at talking? Chen Ming felt even more humiliated and pulled Chen Dehua to leave. Dad, let's go. Don't waste words on this little bastard. The two left the courtyard in dejection. Along the way, Chen Ming kept cursing under his breath, hating Chen Zhi so much his teeth itched. Dad, we can't just let this go. This little bastard is too arrogant. Chen Dehua was also furious, but there was nothing he could do. That little brat's wings have hardened. What can we do about him? Chen Yuan's eyes shifted, and a sinister smile appeared on his face. That animal protection person from the city, what's her name, Lin Wan, is still in the village. I heard she's extremely concerned about wild animals. Lin Wan was an animal protection activist from the city. She had just happened to come to Shirtu village for research during this period. Chen Dehua and his son had also heard of her. Because Lin Wan was pretty and a city girl, the father and son had drooled over her quite a bit. Chen Dehua and his son exchanged a look, still somewhat hesitant. Can it really work? Chen Yuan patted his chest and assured them. Uncle, don't worry. As long as that brat gets thrown in jail, won't his mother and that younger sister of his have to obediently come back and serve you? Then let's see how that kid can keep being so arrogant. When Chen Dehua heard this, he felt it made sense. Last night, with no woman at home to serve him, He truly wasn't used to it. He viciously cursed. Once I sell that little girl for a good price, I can even marry a new wife and have some fun. Chen Ming chimed in as well. Exactly. Brother, we're counting on you for this. As night fell, Chen Yuan quietly took Chen Ming up the back mountain. This back mountain stretched for dozens of li, with overlapping peaks and towering ancient trees. All kinds of birds and beasts could be found in the mountains. Wild rabbits, pheasants, badgers, and even roe deer, everything one could want. In the past, when the villagers couldn't make ends meet, they would go up the mountain to try their luck and get some wild game to satisfy their cravings. There were also quite a few valuable medicinal herbs in the mountains. If you're lucky, you might even dig up lingzhi or ginseng, which can fetch a good price in the city. But in recent years, the country has begun to place greater importance on wildlife protection, and the regulations banning hunting have become increasingly strict. And if you get caught, it's against the law. On top of that, game in the mountains has become scarcer and scarcer, making hunting more and more difficult, so people gradually stopped going. The night on the back mountain was pitch black as ink. Chen Yuan and Chen Ming hunched over, carefully weaving through the woods. Chen Yuan carried an iron contraption wrapped in a tattered burlap sack, which from time to time made a clanking sound, which sounded especially harsh in the silent mountain forest. Can this thing really work? Chen Ming swallowed nervously, his voice trembling a little. Chen Yuan shot him a disdainful glance. Nonsense. I got this animal trap from an old hunter. It's specially made for dealing with large prey, roe deer, wild boars, and the like. It catches one every time. Following their plan, they set a trap in a mountain hollow. It was a natural depression surrounded by dense shrubs, a place where wild animals often appeared. Chen Yuan carefully placed the animal trap on the ground, camouflaged it with branches and fallen leaves, then scattered some corn kernels soaked in liquor around it as bait. Done. Chen Yuan clapped his hands, a smug smile appearing on his face. Now let's just wait for the show. The two hid behind a huge boulder, holding their breath as they quietly waited for the prey to appear. The mountain forest was utterly silent, with only the rustling of leaves in the wind and the chirping of unknown insects in the distance. Chen Ming grew somewhat restless, repeatedly sticking his head out to look around, muttering under his breath, "Why hasn't it come yet? Could this thing not work?" "Shut up," Chen Yuan hissed in a low voice. "Be patient. These roe deer are clever. They won't take the bait that easily." Just as Chen Ming was about to lose patience, a rustling sound came from the distance. The two perked up at once and quickly turned their eyes toward the direction the sound came from. A plump wild roe deer stepped lightly out of the woods. It warily looked around, its nose constantly sniffing the scent in the air. "It's here," Chen Yuan said excitedly in a lowered voice. Attracted by the aroma of the liquor-soaked corn, the roe deer moved closer to the trap step by step. It seemed not to have noticed any danger, and continued leisurely nibbling the corn kernels on the ground. Crack! A crisp metallic snap shattered the stillness of the mountain forest. The roe deer's front leg was firmly clamped in the trap, and it let out a piercing scream, struggling desperately to break free from its restraint. Looking at the roe deer writhing in the trap, Chen Yuan felt immensely pleased. He seemed to have already pictured Chen Zhi being arrested, and a sinister smile spread across his face. Once I get Chen Zhi's hunting rifle, I can hunt even more. Beside him, however, as Chen Ming watched the roe deer struggling non-stop in the trap, he began to waver. He couldn't help swallowing, the image of roast roe deer sizzling with fat surfacing in his mind. "Bro," Chen Ming hesitated for a moment, then said, "How about we just roast this roe deer and eat it?" Chen Yuan was extremely impatient. Was there something wrong with this kid's brain? All he thinks about is eating. What a useless glutton. But on the surface, he still put on an earnest expression and said, "Why do you think we went to so much trouble? Wasn't it all to ruin that little bastard's reputation?" But Chen Ming still hesitated a little. "This roe deer looks pretty fat." Chen Yuan grabbed Chen Ming by the shoulder and shook him hard a few times. "Wake up. Once Chen Zhi gets arrested, we can sell his little sister for a good price. When that time comes, we can eat whatever we want. Delicacies from the mountains and seas, abalone and lobster, won't we be able to eat them whenever we want?" As soon as Chen Ming heard this, he swallowed hard. Yeah, with money, he could even get himself a wife. How could one meal of roasted roe deer compare to the comfort of having a woman serve him? All right. Chen Ming nodded and agreed to Chen Yuan's plan. The two of them worked together to drag the wild roe deer out of the trap. Night had fallen, and the mountain forest was pitch black, with only a few points of starlight filtering down through the gaps in the leaves. Chen Yuan and Chen Ming were panting as they dragged the dying wild roe deer, like two sneaky shadows, making their way down the rugged mountain path. The roe deer let out faint moans, its limbs twitching as it struggled on the brink of death. This beast is pretty tough. Chen Ming spat and viciously kicked the roe deer. Hurry up and die. Save me the trouble. Cut the crap. Chen Yuan barked impatiently. Hurry up and move. If someone sees us, we're done for. After great effort, they finally dragged the wild roe deer to the entrance of Chen Zhi's house. Chen Yuan looked around and, after making sure no one was there, threw the wild roe deer onto the ground. The roe deer let out a pained cry. Its body twitched a few times, and its breathing grew even weaker. All right, next comes staging the scene. Chen Yuan gave a sinister smile. With his mud-stained shoes, he walked back and forth a few times in front of Chen Zhi's house, then used a tree branch to draw a few messy marks on the ground, creating the illusion that Chen Zhi had dragged the prey home. He even stuffed a few corn kernels into the dying roe deer's mouth to further frame him. Perfect. Chen Yuan clapped his hands and admired his handiwork with satisfaction. Now, even if Chen Zhi jumped into the Yellow River, he wouldn't be able to wash himself clean. Even if this beast isn't completely dead, by tomorrow morning it'll definitely be croaking for good, and then the evidence will be ironclad. Early the next morning, Chen Yuan and Chen Ming impatiently ran to the village committee to report Chen Zhi for poaching. The village committee was built beneath the old locust tree at the entrance to the village, a low tile-roofed house with peeling, mottled walls, and several missing roof tiles, making it look somewhat dilapidated. Village chief. Something terrible has happened. That kid Chen Zhi is poaching. Chen Yuan put on a righteous, indignant act. I saw him with my own eyes dragging a roe deer home. That roe deer is probably dead by now. The village chief was an old man over 60, with graying hair and a face full of wrinkles. Hearing Chen Yuan's report, he suddenly slammed the table. Outrageous. That kid has some nerve. He actually dared to commit a crime in defiance of the crackdown. At this moment, Lin Wan, who had been educating the villagers nearby about wildlife protection, also walked over. She was dressed in a simple outdoor outfit, her jet black long hair tied into a ponytail, revealing her smooth forehead. Her delicate features, paired with her fair skin, made her look exceptionally fresh and refined even without makeup, and she exuded an air of intellectual elegance. With her were several young people in their 20s, all wildlife protection volunteers from the city. Hearing Chen Yuan's report, Lin Wan's brows knit slightly, and a trace of worry flashed in her eyes. Poaching? That's a serious violation of the law. Yes, Miss Lin, this kid is way too brazen. Chen Yuan said with embellishment. You must really keep him in check. This roe deer is probably about to die now. The village chief immediately gathered the villagers, and they marched in force toward Chen Zhi's house. Lin Wan and her friends followed behind the group as well, looking solemn. Chen Zhi got up early, stretched lazily, picked up the hunting rifle placed in the corner by the wall, and was about to head into the mountains for a look around. He pushed open the courtyard gate, then froze. A dying wild roe deer lay at his doorstep, its limbs twitching weakly, its mouth stuffed full of corn kernels, letting out faint whimpering sounds. Chen Zhi frowned. So, should he eat it, or eat it? Forget it. During this period, Lin Wan and the volunteers from the Animal Protection Organization were staying in the village, so it wasn't convenient for him to commit an offense in defiance of the situation. He looked around, and found some messy footprints and traces on the ground. No, that wasn't right. It was clearly something someone had deliberately fabricated. He also found a lingering smell of distiller's grains by the roe deer's mouth. Exactly the same as the distiller's grain corn he used as bait in his traps. Chen Zhi calculated inwardly that although the roe deer looked half dead, it still had a breath left in it. And it would be a real pity if it just died like this. Besides, he didn't lack this bit of meat, so he might as well save it. He could also earn a favor from the village brigade, which might come in handy later. Having made up his mind, Chen Zhi turned and went back into the house, brought out some plant ash, and prepared to stop the roe deer's bleeding. He had grown up in the mountains since childhood, so he was quite experienced in dealing with external injuries on such wild animals. He had just applied the plant ash to the wound on the roe deer's leg when he heard a burst of clamor coming from the village entrance. Immediately after, the village chief's trademark booming voice rang out. Chen Zhi, get out here. Chen Zhi's heart sank, knowing the visitors had come with bad intentions. He took a deep breath, put the hunting rifle back inside the house, and only then pushed open the courtyard gate and walked out. Outside the courtyard gate, the village chief came over aggressively with a group of villagers, as if they were here to demand an explanation. Chen Yuan and Chen Ming stood at the front of the crowd, wearing the smug looks of petty villains, their eyes full of gloating. Chen Zhi, what else do you have to say for yourself? The village chief pointed at the roe deer on the ground and demanded angrily, you actually dared to poach. What does that make of our village's wildlife protection publicity work? Chen Zhi looked at the roe deer on the ground, then at the triumphant smiles on Chen Yuan and Chen Ming's faces, and instantly understood what was going on. He let out a cold laugh. Village chief, I didn't shoot this roe deer. Didn't shoot it? Chen Yuan said sarcastically. Then how did this roe deer end up at your doorstep? Did it run here by itself? And foaming at the mouth, belly up with all four hooves in the air, just short of having the words, I was shot by Chen Zhi written on it. Exactly. What else do you have to quibble about? Chen Ming chimed in as well. We saw with our own eyes that you dragged it back. You still want to deny it? Chen Zhi sneered inwardly. Those two really were putting on quite a show. He looked around and found that quite a few villagers were looking at him with suspicion, clearly believing what Chen Yuan and Chen Ming had said. Remaining calm and composed, he looked at them. I have evidence proving this roe deer wasn't shot by me. Evidence? What evidence? The village chief asked, half believing and half doubtful. Chen Zhi pointed at the marks on the roe deer's leg left by an animal trap, his tone calm, yet forceful. Village chief, uncles and aunties, this wound was clearly caused by an animal trap. I, Chen Zhi, have a hunting rifle. If I really wanted to shoot a roe deer, why would I go to such unnecessary trouble? Besides, does this roe deer have any gunshot wounds on it? Hearing this, everyone looked at one another, doubtful and uncertain. The triumphant smiles on Chen Yuan and Chen Ming's faces also froze. They didn't expect Chen Zhi to come up with a rebuttal so quickly. At this moment, a city girl with glasses and a ponytail standing behind Lin Wan stepped forward. Her name was Su Xiaoya, Lin Wan's friend, and also a volunteer with an animal protection organization. Su Xiaoya came from a wealthy family, had received an elite education since childhood, and was prejudiced against rural life and villagers. Especially these past few days in the countryside had really opened her eyes. In her view, these country people would do anything for petty gain. Stop making excuses here. Su Xiaoya pushed up the glasses on her nose, her tone sharp. Do you think you can muddle through just by coming up with some random excuse? Who knows if you deliberately injured the roe deer and then made up a lie? Chen Zhi didn't get angry and instead asked back, Comrade, if I really wanted to hunt this roe deer, why would I stop its bleeding with plant ash? Do you think I have nothing better to do? As he spoke, he lifted the fur on the roe deer's leg, revealing the plant ash that had already been applied. Everyone, take a look, this plant ash is fresh. Only then did the crowd notice that the wound on the roe deer's leg had indeed been treated, and there was even a trace of blood on the plant ash, clearly showing it had only been applied not long ago. Su Xiaoya still didn't believe him and pressed aggressively. Who knows if you're just putting on an act for us? Maybe you already expected us to come, so you prepared in advance. Chen Zhi looked at her with a half-smile. Miss, your imagination is really quite something. I'd like to ask instead, how would I know you were coming today? Can I predict the future? Or did you inform me in advance? Su Xiaoya was left speechless by Chen Zhi's retort, her face flushing red, but she still refused to let it go. Then explain this. Why did this roe deer appear at your doorstep? It couldn't have run over here by itself, could it? I really don't know about that. Chen Zhi shrugged. Maybe some kind-hearted person brought it to me and wanted me to help take care of it. He deliberately stressed the words kind-hearted person, his gaze intentionally or unintentionally sweeping over Chen Yuan and Chen Ming. Chen Yuan and Chen Ming looked even worse, yet did not dare meet Chen Zhi's eyes, their eyes darting as they guiltily avoided everyone's gaze. The villagers began discussing animatedly. Some felt Chen Zhi's words made sense, while others thought he was just making excuses. The situation was deadlocked for a moment. Lin Wan silently observed Chen Zhi from the side. She felt that Chen Zhi was not as simple as he appeared on the surface. His tone was steady, and he handled himself with ease. It probably wasn't him. While everyone was talking at once, Lin Wan walked over to Chen Zhi's side. She also knew Chen Zhi. The reason was that the educated youth and these volunteers were all, after all, from the city. They had common topics to talk about. And Chen Zhi had previously been pursuing Ning Shuichen. Everyone knew that. Lin Wan and the others had naturally heard quite a bit about it as well. Chen Zhi, Lin Wan said softly, I know your life isn't easy, but poaching is illegal and very risky. It's not worth it. Looking at the concern in Lin Wan's eyes, Chen Zhi's heart stirred slightly. He could tell that Lin Wan was sincerely concerned for him. Comrade Lin, thank you for your concern, but I really didn't hunt this roe deer. Lin Yuan sighed. I know you may have something difficult to say, but I still hope you can give up this dangerous line of work as soon as possible. A factory in the city is hiring right now, and the pay is pretty good. If you're interested, I can help introduce you. As soon as Lin Yuan said this, the surrounding villagers immediately erupted. What? More than 40 yuan? We work ourselves to death all year round and still can't save up that much money. Chen Zhi, this is an incredible opportunity. You must seize it. City volunteers really are different. They can even help introduce jobs. Exactly. These days, workers are no ordinary people. Their income is guaranteed no matter rain or shine, and they get all kinds of benefits too. It's far better than scratching out a living here in the mountains. Chen Zhi, if you go to the city, don't forget us fellow villagers. The villagers all chimed in at once, discussing it animatedly. In their eyes, going to the city to become a worker was the best way to change one's fate. A monthly wage of over dozens of yuan was simply an astronomical figure. Chen Yuan and Chen Ming stood in the crowd, their faces so gloomy they looked ready to drip water. They had originally wanted to see Chen Zhi make a fool of himself, but they never expected Lin Yuan to actually help introduce him to a job, and such a good job at that. TCH, isn't he just some lousy worker? What's so great about that? Chen Yuan said sourly. However, what happened next left everyone stunned. Chen Zhi politely declined Lin Yuan's kindness. Thank you, Comrade Lin, but I'm used to life in the mountains. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone stared with their eyes wide open. In times like these, the working class is nothing like us mud-legged peasants. Who isn't desperately trying to get in? People would even spend several hundred just to buy a job. But with such a good opportunity, Chen Zhi just turned it down? Has he lost his mind? Lin Yuan wanted to persuade him further, but Su Xiaoya cut her off. Lin Yuan, why waste your breath on him? People like him are stubborn and incorrigible. He simply won't listen. Su Xiaoya walked over and grabbed Lin Yuan's arm. Let's go. Don't waste any more time. Listening from the side, Chen Yuan was furious, his insides burning with rage. Not only had the poaching scheme failed, but Chen Zhi had ended up benefiting from it instead. Why? Just because he was a bit better looking than himself. He could hook up with a volunteer from the city? These women from the city put on such a respectable front, but aren't they all just a bunch of sluts? Luckily, Chen Zhi is stupid enough to turn down even an opportunity like this. Lin Yuan walked up to the village chief. Village chief, I don't think this looks like something Chen Zhi did. Maybe it was an old animal trap left in the mountains, and this roe deer accidentally stepped on it and got hurt. The village chief was also afraid the matter would blow up. These days, poaching could get you shot. He nodded and turned his cloudy eyes toward Chen Zhi. Xiao Zhi, this time we wronged you. I'll apologize to you. Chen Zhi smiled faintly. It's fine, village chief. But some things still need to be investigated clearly. Don't jump to conclusions and make accusations based on mere rumors. His gaze was as sharp as a blade, shooting straight at Chen Yuan and Chen Ming. Maybe someone did something guilty themselves and is now crying thief to catch thief. Chen Yuan and Chen Ming's faces turned livid. Chen Yuan jutted out his neck and shouted arrogantly. Chen Zhi, stop slandering us. What evidence do you have to say we were poaching? Chen Ming also chimed in. Exactly, don't think you can pin this on us. Lin Yuan ignored the brothers shouting and turned to the village chief. Village chief, this roe deer is badly injured. It needs to be taken to the clinic for treatment right away. Could you see if you can find some people to help carry it? The village chief naturally agreed and called over a few strong men, who carefully lifted the roe deer up. Only then did Lin Yuan walk over to Chen Zhi and softly say, Thank you, Chen Zhi. Su Xiaoya rolled her eyes from the side. What are you thanking him for? He hasn't even cleared himself of suspicion yet. Lin Yuan shot Su Xiaoya a helpless glance and said in a lowered voice, Xiaoya, I know you have prejudices against rural people, but you can't condemn everyone with the same brush. It's not like everyone is this way. Her tone carried a hint of affectionate reproach, as if she were coaxing a child throwing a tantrum. Su Xiaoya snorted and said nothing more. Taking advantage of the moment while the village chief and the others were carrying the roe deer away, Lin Yuan said to Chen Zhi again, Chen Zhi, if you come across an injured wild animal in the future, it's best not to handle it yourself. Directly contact the local forestry department or animal protection organization. They have professional equipment and personnel and can provide better rescue for these animals. She began enthusiastically giving Chen Zhi a crash course on wildlife rescue knowledge, from how to judge an animal's injuries to how to do simple bandaging, covering every detail. Chen Zhi listened quietly, nodding from time to time, with a barely noticeable hint of amusement in his eyes. This girl from the city really did have a warm heart. The village chief led people away carrying the roe deer, and the onlooking villagers gradually dispersed as well. Su Xiaoya tugged at Lin Wan to leave too, but Lin Wan stopped, turned back, and said to Chen Zhi, "Chen Zhi, if you change your mind and want to work in the city, you can come find me anytime." Chen Zhi nodded. One doesn't slap a smiling face. Besides, this Lin Wan was actually quite nice. "Thanks, but I don't need it for now." Beside him, Su Xiaoya looked full of disdain. "Lin Wan, are you out of your mind? Why are you so concerned about some country bumpkin?" Lin Wan sighed helplessly. "Xiaoya, don't say that. Chen Zhi is actually a pretty good person." Good? Good my ass. I think he's just pretending. Who knows how he's judging you in his head? You're the only fool who can't see it." Su Xiaoya rolled her eyes and dragged Lin Wan away. "Let's hurry back to the city. I can't stand staying in this dump for even one more minute." "Hey, slow down." Lin Wan stumbled as she was dragged along. Chen Zhi watched the two leave and shook his head with a smile. Girls from the city really were adorably naive. He had been reborn and knew well the development trends of the coming decades. In this era, although factory workers were in demand, within a few years there would be a massive wave of layoffs. Rather than be cast aside by the times then, he might as well save up more capital now and, when the spring breeze of reform and opening up blew in, become a self-employed businessman and make a fortune. Thinking of this, Chen Zhi held that old-fashioned hunting rifle, checked the chamber, confirmed a round was loaded, then slung the gun over his shoulder and headed up the mountain. It was now late autumn turning into early winter, exactly when prey was at its fattest. If he didn't seize the opportunity properly, wouldn't that be wasting the advantage of being reborn? After entering the mountain, Chen Zhi made his way upward along the rugged mountain path, his sharp eyes sweeping over the surrounding grass and woods in search of traces of prey. Before long, he found a string of fresh wild boar tracks on a patch of muddy ground. The prints were large and deep, clearly left by an adult wild boar. Chen Zhi was delighted. This was a real prize. If he could hunt a wild boar, it would be worth far more than hunting dozens of wild rabbits or pheasants. Only by saving money could he build a house and let his younger sister and mother live a good life. Only then could he be said to have made up for the mistakes of his previous life. However, wild boars were not so easy to deal with. They had thick hides, great strength, and if he confronted one head-on, even with a gun in hand, he might not come out ahead. He had to think of a way and outsmart it. Chen Zhi tracked the wild boar along its footprints and discovered that it often moved around this area. He carefully observed the surrounding terrain and found a mountain valley nearby, with narrow terrain and steep mountain walls on both sides, with only a single path for passage. Not bad. Chen Zhi thought to himself. This was practically a natural trap. He decided to set a trap here to capture the wild boar. No sooner said than done. Chen Zhi first used his hunting knife to cut some branches and vines, then dug a large pit at the entrance to the valley, with the bottom filled with sharpened wooden stakes. He disguised the mouth of the pit with branches and vines, then spread a thin layer of soil and fallen leaves over it, making it look no different from the surrounding ground. After setting the trap, Chen Zhi scattered some wild fruits and plant roots that boars like to eat around the area as bait. Everything was ready. Now all he had to do was wait for the boar to take the bait. On the way back, Chen Ming cursed the whole way and unloaded on Chen Yuan. What kind of stupid idea was that? Damn it. I almost got my family jewels kicked off by that roe deer. And the meat we almost had is gone too. You bastard, you owe me. Chen Yuan forced a fake smile, while in his heart he had already cursed Chen Ming's ancestors for 18 generations. This idiot has no ideas of his own, and now he's blaming me? It's not like I expected that beast to react so fast either. Chen Yuan put on a smile and said, Next time I'll definitely help you catch an even bigger one." Chen Ming refused to let it go. "No way, you have to compensate me with meat." "I don't care, tomorrow you have to snare a rabbit for me." Chen Yuan readily agreed, but in his heart, he was plotting something else. What Lin Wan had said earlier about introducing a job to Chen Zhi had really gotten under his skin. A textile factory, a secure iron rice bowl job. And that idiot Chen Zhi actually didn't want it. What an out-and-out fool. When they reached the entrance of the village, the two parted ways. Chen Yuan kept coaxing Chen Ming. "Don't worry, Chen Zhi won't get away next time. If we brothers join forces, we'll definitely make him pay dearly." As soon as Chen Ming had gone far enough, Chen Yuan's expression changed at once, and he spat. Idiot. Humming a little tune, he planned to go ask Lin Wan about the textile factory hiring. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He couldn't let that fool Chen Zhi get it for cheap. When Chen Yuan got home, before he even entered, he heard his mother's lioness-like roar. "Chen Yuan, you little brat. Where the hell have you been fooling around again? You're never home all day long. All you know is running wild outside. Chen Yuan impatiently pushed the door open. What are you yelling for? You're making me go deaf. His mother stood with her hands on her hips, pointing at Chen Zhi's nose as she cursed. And you still dare talk back? Look at yourself. What do you look like? Loafing around all day, doing nothing proper. All right. Stop nagging. Chen Yuan cut her off. Give me some money. His mother froze for a moment. What do you want money for? Don't tell me you've picked up some bad habit. The family's money is all being saved for your marriage. Bad habit, my ass. Chen Yuan rolled his eyes. I'm going to the city to become a worker tomorrow. His mother looked suspicious. Become a worker? You? Who would want you? None of your business. Who wants me? Chen Yuan said impatiently. Anyway, just give me the money. I need to buy some things. Chen Yuan's mother acted as if she'd heard the biggest joke in the world, her spit nearly spraying onto Chen Yuan's face. With your lazy, gluttonous self, who would want you? Do you think factories are collecting junk or something? The moment Chen Yuan heard that, his temper flared. The hell do you know? I've got connections. That animal protection volunteer said they'd introduce me to a job at the textile factory. An iron rice bowl. Animal protection volunteer? Chen Yuan's mother looked baffled. Chen Yuan explained impatiently. It means protecting animals. A college student from the city. They said as long as I bring a gift, this will work out. Bring a gift? Chen Yuan's mother narrowed her eyes into a slit, a sharp gleam flashing past. Though she wasn't very educated, her mind was far from slow. These animal protection volunteers were not like the educated youth sent to the countryside in past years. It was said that these volunteers all came from well-connected families, and the village chief had even specifically told everyone to treat them well. They were all honored guests. And these volunteers were all young girls. Chen Yuan's mother began calculating in her heart. Though this boy was unreliable, what he said was probably true. If we really can latch onto this connection, maybe we can benefit from it in the future. And besides, even if the job doesn't work out, she can still go make trouble for those animal protection people. City people are all thin-skinned. They'd be too embarrassed not to pay back the money. How much do you want? Chen Yuan's mother asked, probing. The moment Chen Yuan saw there was a chance, he immediately asked for an exorbitant sum. 300. Not a cent less. They said this is money for greasing the wheels, so it can't be any less. 300. Why don't you just go rob someone? Chen Yuan's mother almost jumped up. This was more than half a year's savings for her. Give it or don't. Forget it if you won't. Chen Yuan jutted out his neck. Don't regret it later. Chen Yuan's mother was so angry her face turned green, and she pointed at the door and cursed. Get out. Let me think about it properly. Chen Yuan snorted and turned to leave, but inside he was overjoyed. 300 yuan. When the time came, he'd first go enjoy himself in the city for a few days, then slowly spend the rest. Chen Yuan's mother paced back and forth in the room, feeling restless as if cats were scratching at her heart. Although 300 yuan pained her to part with, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If by any chance this brat really could latch onto some connections, maybe in the future he could even buy her a big house and support her in old age. Thinking of this, she gritted her teeth, went into the bedroom, and lifted the pillow, feeling around underneath to pull out a tightly sewn purse. Inside this purse was all the money she had secretly saved by scrimping and saving. When she counted out 300 yuan, Chen Yuan's mother was so heartsick she kept twitching. She had saved this bit by bit. Chen Yuan had grown a little impatient waiting outside and was just about to break in when he saw his mother come out with a dark expression, clutching a wad of cash in her hand. Here, take it. Chen Yuan's mother stuffed the money into Chen Yuan's hand, her tone carrying a bit of reluctance. Spend it sparingly. Don't waste it. Chen Yuan snatched the money in one grab, still cursing under his breath. Yeah, I got it. So naggy. He counted the money, and after confirming it was all there, turned and left without even saying thanks. Why the hell does it still smell like saliva?